First of all, I realized like there are a lot of women who are going through this. In the hospital, you would walk in.
You're not getting cancer because you did something wrong.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately a thing that happens.
Yeah.
It's like, and Tans is like, yeah, so that's hand, foot, and mouth. I'm like, no, but her hands are itching.
Yeah.
Then he like now looks at her hands and says, yeah, you see, your
But yeah,
lines-
he says, yes.
He said your lines should not be black. So I'm like, sir,
Thank God, Jackie
Thank God
was
you were there.
like, what do you mean? We are black.
Yeah, Jackie was like,
Welcome back to another episode of It Depends, I Guess podcast. I am Jackie.
I'm Caroline.
And at the back we have
DJ.
Ooh,
Today
and
we have a guest.
we do have a guest indeed. Beautiful,
brighty,
colorful,
rainbow,
rainbow. Yes.
sunshine.
Beautiful laugh.
Yes.
If you're watching this on YouTube, actually, you will see the colors. But if you're listening on Spotify or on Apple
Yes.
Podcasts,
We will
you
describe
just have to
the
imagine.
rainbow.
Yes. Imagine a rainbow.
Yes. Exactly. We have
Yes.
our friend Caroline on the podcast.
Another Caroline.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have closed the limit of Carols in our friend group.
no more carols
No more
allowed.
Carols. Pick another name, last name, middle name, no more
Yes.
Caroline.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
I'm
yes.
glad to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally. Yeah. We keep saying we have friends. We do have friends.
We do have friends indeed.
I am said friends.
Yes.
One of.
Look at me losing my train of thought. We'll begin with the ahas of the week.
The house of the week.
Yeah.
Okay. So this week, I just want to take a moment to appreciate. It's actually an aha for me. Appreciate the number of followers that we've gotten in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
We've grown exponentially, if that's the word to use.
Hockey stick growth.
Yes. And mainly our Kenyan followers. And for those who are joining us for the first time, we both of us are Kenyans. Caro is also Kenyan. Yeah. And
I was like, what are we?
the hosts, if you're joining us for the first time, Jackie and I are the hosts, and Caroline is our guest. We are all Kenyans.
Yes.
And we have a Zimbabwean at the back, who's our producer.
Yes.
Also from Ireland.
Yes.
And we live in Switzerland. And this podcast is our lived experiences, our friendships, deep discussions, light discussions, the in-betweens. Yeah. So welcome, everybody. And thanks for following our podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And fun fact, she's also somebody else who our commonality is Ireland.
Yes. Oh,
We all
Ireland.
met in Ireland.
Yes, we
Almost
did.
10 years now. Huh?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
been a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So that's the aha for the week, and welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to this geriatric podcast.
Not everyone is. Probably our bodies are, but at heart, I haven't reached geriatric.
Let me tell you.
No.
DJ, we can go in clockwise motion.
Yeah.
I have a mic so you guys can carry on.
All right.
Ah, yes.
What was my half of the week? So I think I realized this. It feels interesting to be in a time where we are kind of watching the irrelevancy of traditional media grow. Like traditional media is becoming less and less of what it was.
Yes.
And I thought it was just a thing. So in Kenya, for example, with what's been going on with like a lot of activism and a lot of challenging the current government and all the issues going on, normally media would be the fourth estate, right? Would be there trying to be the objective entity that's trying to show what are people complaining about, etc. And it feels like the media has just kind of been, just chilling.
Quiet.
Quiet. And it's fascinating that now when I want to go in and kind of see like, what's really going on from like this is what the president did today, is I go into people's channels like Ngugi and different, who her channel is a YouTube-based channel. And so like that has grown to be kind of where people go to like, things that they normally the main media would be reporting on like, all these are like white elephant projects that have not been moving, etc. It's independent entities who have non-traditional platforms who are doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it became even more of an aha for me with the current presidential kind of campaigns in the US to see how the candidates are popping up on the podcast I listen to.
Yeah.
And so now it's interesting to see that they are going on podcast platforms to reach the voter base, and that less like traditional media has become kind of less. And, like people like Kamala was on like called Her Daddy, and she's on a podcast called I've Had It. Then Trump was on like Flagrant True on like Schultz platform. He was on Joe Rogan. So it's so weird to be like, whoa, I think, are we in a time where we're watching? And you'd think that they would try to pivot and expand on the non-traditional platforms, but it feels like they're just dragging their feet and they're trying to like hold on and like protect this thing that they're like, oh, this is what we've owned for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to me, it's shocking because it's like you've seen examples like Kodak, who never pivoted quick enough. Nokia, who were like, oh, smartphone, what? Where is Nokia now, right? And Blockbuster, who thought streaming is a joke, and now like they're all gone. And it's weird that there's all these examples that have shown that if you don't pivot quick enough to embrace, you'll become irrelevant. But it's odd to watch them still try to hold on to like, no, but
we have
too big to
it's
fail.
so fascinating to watch.
You know what I learned the other day, especially in the US, that most of the media channels are actually owned by only 4 companies. So if there is a hold on how the story should be told, it is being controlled by just those 4. And people have realized these people will never tell us the truth that there is. It's controlled. So I've seen like on TikTok, there's a guy called, I think, Dylan that I follow, that he does a whole TV show where he gives the news. Like every day he has news for every day what's happening. He's called Dylan. He does fantastic job. But I can see actually people now opening, not necessarily even podcasts, people opening their
like on the TikTok,
news.
the news is coming to you
in that platform.
It's
like
insane.
somebody opens a news channel that's specifically maybe 1 month or 2 months, and you go around collecting the news that people need to hear. That's what's coming. There will be more and more people.
And it's also happening with written media, right? Where I find subscribing to more and more of people's like Substacks. I'm like, oh, this person goes in depth in this, or this person goes in depth in this. And sometimes they'll link to traditional media, but it's like, you have like, oh, this is the person who I know is going to go into depth in certain subjects. And then if I need to read more, then I'll link to the traditional media. So it is so very interesting. Yeah.
In Kenya, we do have a couple of people who do this, Like even on Instagram. Yeah.
And then even folks who are in traditional media like John Alanamu left and opened their own platforms that are purely streaming on YouTube.
Yeah.
But the amount of following, because people trust their journalism, they're like, yep, I'll just follow that guy.
Yeah.
Why do I need to watch these guys basically just, they're like, so much more is happening. I'm not getting this information. You're just going to tell me that someone went and opened a road that doesn't even exist. It's insane.
And also kudos to Morara Kibosa. Kibaso. I do like following what he's doing on social media, on TikTok, like going to, actually, first of all, doing civic education. And then second of all, calling out where people's money has gone down the rabbit holes, So he's doing part of the journalism that's actually should have been done by this
media.
It's insane. But you know what? There's a gap. Take it. Let these people just watch us. Everything just crumbles. It's insane.
It's coming.
It is
coming. Yes.
Our guests.
My aha of the week is much less serious.
Please give us less serious.
It's Dwayne Wade statue unveiling. Did you see this?
No, I haven't seen that.
Dwayne Wade had like a statue of him made with the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
And then, like, to me, like, the statue is one thing, but the most funny thing is that usually there's a video of him sitting next to his son during the unveiling.
Yeah.
Of this thing. And and they just look at each other. And so someone's like, a lot of words were spoken with the eyes because they don't say anything, but you can just tell. Like
maybe we can put a little clip.
Yeah, maybe you can put a picture of it. Yeah, like of that look and the statue. But yeah, that has made my
it crossed my WhatsApp with my brothers. So because I saw the statue, and I was like, who's that? I was like,
only when I saw Dwayne Wade, that's supposed to be him.
That's supposed to be him. Yeah. So then my brother says, I don't know, in Kenya, in Eldred, was it a month or 2 ago?
I was going to ask if it's exactly the same.
So my brother posted the group and says, man, the guy who made the Faith statue, I can see he got a visa to go to the US and do on a job. He's not with the same guy. Because it's like, who are these people? Oh my God. Yes. You would think with time, now that we're like 3D printing and all these different things, that things would look more like people.
But the thing is, I saw a clip where it was like pictures of Dwayne Wade reviewing the clay making thing of the statue, like when it was just the head. And at the time, I guess he seemed okay with it. So I don't know if he's like, I don't know if it looked different later or maybe because I don't know if he reposted it. I just saw someone else who had reposted it. So I don't know if he had actually reposted it on the day. But it's like, it did not look anything close to it.
That is insane. Oh my God, that cracked me up.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. All right. Okay. So we didn't really, maybe you'll see the title.
Yeah.
All right. So on this episode where we have our guest, so first, this is we are still in October,
yes,
which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And our friend went through a journey last year, and we thought it would be a good place to come and kind of talk about her experience, and I don't know, hopefully, kind of getting insight into her journey into going through cancer treatment, and also hopefully. The action out of this is that we go get checked.
Yes.
But just check yourself at home.
Just check yourself.
Because you can do that.
Yes. Yeah. But we'll start with you and your background.
Give us a brief background.
Yes.
I'm Caroline.
Yes.
I'm Kenyan, but the reason I was laughing is because you guys say I'm American sometimes. I grew up in Kenya and then I also grew up in the US after when I was a teenager. And I met you guys in Ireland in 2015.
2015, yes.
Yes. And then I followed Carol to...
I convinced you to move to Zurich.
Actually, it was an exodus, and I think you were the first one. Then our other friend Lynn, and then I came over. I'm happy to be here and share my journey because we were talking about this before, where I didn't realize this until I got sick, but there seems to be some stigma, especially in our community, around cancer in general, and people getting cancer, and so for me it's like something I'm very open about, and if talking about it can help anybody, I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. So maybe let's start with just the beginning of like just the early signs, like what was that told you maybe I should go get checked, something doesn't seem right.
So it started on April Fool's.
Did it?
It was April 1st, 2023. It was last year. And if you guys remember, my now husband was my fiance at the time, was in Berlin for an exchange program. So I was going back and forth. So I was in Berlin, and we had just gone for a walk with one of his coworkers, and I just kept feeling some random pain in my shoulder. It would come. And then it would just like sharp pain from here to here. And then it would go away after like one minute or so, maybe 30 seconds, since it would go away. And then like 15 minutes later, it would come back. And I was just kind of like, okay, this is weird. And then I remember that evening calling my sister and being like, I'm just having this random pain. She's like, oh, yeah, just getting older.
Age. Like, attributed to age.
Right? Yes. Welcome to getting older. But I had also, I think the thing that triggered me I just did a self-check in the bathroom a couple of days later. But what triggered me, I think, to do that is I had one of my good friends from high school. She had found a lump in her breast, and it ended up being nothing. But when we were doing one of our regular catch-ups, she told me about that. So I think maybe that was in the back of my head. So I was just like, okay, yeah, this was weird. Let me just do a check. And then I was, I felt a lump. I was like, okay, that's a bit weird. And then I remember telling my husband, like, look, I felt something. And I Googled it actually. And it's like 90% of lumps are benign, which is true. 90%. Yeah. I was like, it's probably nothing. But just in case, when I go back home this weekend, I'm going to get it checked out. So honestly, that was it. I was like, let me just get it checked out. And I also didn't know how long it was going to take to do everything. So I just Googled like breast hospital. I don't even remember what the words I Googled was. First result I found, I, gave them a call and I was like, I felt a lump. Can I come get checked out? And then remember, I came that Friday.
Yes.
We went for drinks.
Yeah. We went for drinks.
Three of us.
Yes.
And I remember I told you guys, this was on a Friday. So I was like, I'm going to go get checked out for this lump in my breast on Tuesday. And I was like, and you were like,
yeah. I remember you mentioning it. And in my head, I was like, okay. Probably maybe it's the 1 or 2 drinks we had, but to me, I was like, okay. Yeah. It's normal.
Even
just
me,
getting
I was
a checkup.
Like, okay. Because I was like, I feel something. Let's get it checked out.
Yeah.
Because, this was April. This was 3 months to our wedding.
Yeah.
Right? So me, I'm like focused on the wedding. I'm like in some of the best shape of my life. I felt fine. I didn't have any other symptoms. You know, it's not like I was like getting headaches or feeling anything else. So to me, it was like, let's get checked out. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
So then I do that. And then it turns out that the place I Googled is like a breast care clinic. It's called Brustzentrum in Zurich, is where I end up getting my treatment. Amazing place. But anyway, what that means is that like when I got there, like I talked to the doctor and she's like, oh, tell me what's going on. Yeah. And then she was like, oh, you're not on your period. And I was like, no. She's like, okay, let's just have a look. So we just went to the back and she did an ultrasound. And we're lying there and she does the ultrasound. And she's like, yeah, I see some calcifications. So why don't I maybe bring my colleague in and we can do a biopsy? And I'm like, what does calcifications mean? I am oblivious. And I think she was also very calm. She didn't make me like worried or anything. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure. So she brings the nurse in, they numb me, they do the biopsy right there and then, which I came to realize is very unusual for like that whole process to happen very quickly. Okay. Because usually you'll go maybe see either your GP or you see your gynecologist and then they'll refer you and then you get referred to somewhere else to do the biopsy and then, right? So for me, I just happened to Google a place that did everything in-house and did it quickly.
Yeah.
So me, I remember just being like, okay, when am I going to get the results? Because like I said, Glenn was in Berlin. So I'm like, I'm going back to Berlin. So like, when am I going to get the results? I'm leaving on Friday. Right? And she was like, oh, I'm going on holiday. So I'll have someone else call you. Again, didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, fine. Then the next day, I was actually in the office. I get a phone call and it's another doctor from the Brustzentrum. I don't remember his name. And he was like, hi, my colleague said that you wanted us to call you. And he was like, usually we don't like to give this news over the phone. And he's like, I'm so sorry, but it's cancer. And I'm like, what? So the first time I found out was over the phone. Like, because I had said I was traveling. So they were like, you know what I mean? So I had said like, they didn't call me. But I had said like, just call me. They were like, I'm so sorry, but it's cancer. And I was like, and I remember he said like, and it's quite an aggressive one. So we'd want you to start treatment. And he's like, can you come in and talk to a doctor for more information? And so me, I'm like, I remember, I think one of the first questions I asked him was like, can I still get married? I'm getting married in July. My brain is still processing. I'm getting married in July. Can I still get married? And he was like, maybe not in this way, but travel will be difficult. But I was like, okay. And then I think we agreed to come on Friday. And then, I think immediately, I just found a meeting room, called Glenn. Was like, yeah, it's cancer. You need to come so we can go talk to the doctor. Because he also said
he was still in Berlin at the
he
time.
was still in Berlin, and they had also said like, try and come with somebody.
Yeah.
So then we did that. And then I don't know if I ever told you guys this,
Yeah.
but so then I talked to Glenn. Like, yep, no, you need to come. And then I studied myself, and I went for a meeting.
What?
Yep.
Oh my God.
You continued
with
with it? I think it's how they say you either go into flight or what was it? Fight, flight, or freeze.
Or freeze.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
So you just shut down.
That's
You
correct.
want some normalcy.
I think my thing was just like, okay, what are we gonna do? Okay, so then I went for a meeting, and then I had a career chat with my manager.
What?
Whoa, girl. Whoa.
And I was just like, I mean, because at this point, I'm thinking like, okay, I have cancer, but all we know is that it's cancer, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't know all of this, and this is the thing when you get diagnosed, it's like there's that initial moment where but then you don't really know.
You don't
Yeah.
So it wasn't until 2 days later, that was like a Wednesday evening. It wasn't until like Friday morning. So like Thursday, Glenn came back. Friday morning, we went to talk to the doctor, and that's when she sat me down and was like, this is the type of cancer you have. First lesson, there's multiple types of breast cancer.
Yes.
And then this is when you start to get all the details. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, that is how my diagnosis.
So from the day you did the biopsy, that was on Friday.
I did Tuesday.
Tuesday the
Wednesday
biopsy.
afternoon,
Noon.
I found out.
Yeah.
Friday morning, we met with my surgeon now. Then that's when you sit down with like the paper. And you start to get details.
Yeah. A very short time to actually have all that. Yeah.
Maybe go into the details of like, you alluded to like there's different types of cancers, right? So
yes.
Now because I was learning through you, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Honestly, it's almost like, cancer university. You start to learn, it's like its own language of this types of breast cancer. So in breast cancer, there's 3 markers that they check for when they do the biopsy. One is the protein called HER2, and then estrogen, and then progesterone. So you can be positive or negative for any of these markers, right? So your cancer could be a combination of any of these.
Yeah.
The type of cancer that you have determines the treatment that you can do, right?
Yes.
So if it's like a hormone ones, usually you'll have, most of those women will have to like take hormone blockers even for the rest of their lives, right? Or certain ones.
My sister-in-law had that kind of
The hormone.
The hormone.
the hormone one, which you're going through the process with you. Then she was diagnosed towards the end of the same year.
Towards the end of my,
I had a PhD in, I was just like, okay, so what did they say? Blah, blah, blah. In my head, I'm like, all right, cool. I know the treatment. I know I was like,
exactly.
I went through the.
You knew all of this, and then so like there's what was I saying? Like the different kinds, and then some if you have some of the I don't know if it's the HER2 positive. Anyway, some of them. They even have like the treatment journey, the treatment options are advanced to where sometimes you don't even need to do chemotherapy, right? So now, unfortunately, the type of cancer I had is triple negative, which means it was negative for all of these markers, right? Yeah. So what that means is we don't know what's causing your cancer, so we have to throw everything at it, right? And so that Friday you meet with the surgeon, you're like, okay, you have triple negative. We think it's stage 2, which they can tell from like the size of the tumor. But I still had to do a bunch of other tests to conduct mammogram, CT scan, all these things to confirm if it's spread anywhere. But then it's like, okay, most likely what this means is you're going to have to do 6 months of chemotherapy, surgery, and then radiation. Actually, they didn't tell me about radiation then. They told me about radiation like
way
much
after,
later. I think they try not to overwhelm you.
Yeah.
And then like saying in the same meeting, you're meeting with her and she's like, also, you're quite young. Are you thinking of having children? We recommend getting your eggs frozen. And it's like, I can recommend somebody to do that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like Friday, I'm like finding out I have cancer. Monday, the whole next week was just meetings like CT scan, mammogram, like all of these different tests. You start meeting with the genetic testing person. But then also I'm like meeting with the gynecologist to get my eggs frozen, which is like not something I ever thought about having to do. We can talk about that later. But yeah.
And also I think something I learned, I think also from your prognosis at the time was that, or diagnosis rather, is that the triple negative is also something that's more common in Black women. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then, I mean, I suppose then there was like the telling people. Is that the next thing?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting because obviously I think we were in a bit of a unique situation. Not unique, it's not a unique situation. We were in a situation where we're getting married in 3 months. Everybody is invited. Everything is planned. So it's like, okay, you know, who are we going to tell? Who are we not going to tell? But we made the decision pretty early on. It's like, I want to be open about this. And like, let's tell everybody. So actually, I think it was on Friday, right? Then we called you. Yes. So it was Friday. We came back from the hospital. And then, we just went through the list of friends and family and close friends, right? So it's like, I'll call my dad, call Glenn's parents, my mom, my brothers, my sister. I don't remember in which order. I think my sister was first. Anyway, or maybe I don't remember. Anyway, we just called, and then I called you guys one by one, and we were just kind of like, this is happening, and we also at that point it's like, okay, we're still gonna get married, but I'm not planning a big wedding. I just need to focus on getting married. And so then we delegated people to be like, please go tell other people what's going on. You can tell them like that. You can tell them what's going on, but please, it's kind of trying to have a circle of, I'm happy to talk to certain people, but I didn't have the energy to answer questions from every single person.
And also repeating it again and again.
Exactly.
It's very taxing, and you're already going through something that's life-changing and taxing. So I imagine, having a smaller circle sort of helped you.
Like have a circle and then they can go disseminate.
What went through the thought process in terms of thinking like, yes, there's family, close friends, but also, yes, they can tell other people. And there has to be the caveat of this, you're finding out the information, this is recent, don't bombard her with any questions, etc. Just give space. When she's ready, you'll know. But then what was the thing that made you think, yes, I'm going to share? Because also culturally, that's not the norm.
People tend to keep information like this very close, and actually most people tell you maybe halfway through when they're through chemo. That's when they're giving you the information, and you were pretty open from the beginning. So what led to that actually?
I mean, like, it's not gonna change anything. You know what I mean? Like, I have cancer. Me telling people, me not telling people is not going to change anything. I think also years of therapy and like just being able to know that I could set the boundaries between like, just because I'm telling you doesn't mean I'm like, I want to ask all these questions, right? So I think maybe knowing that it's like, I don't care if you know, but I'm not that doesn't give you permission to just like you know, bombard me with questions or whatever. Like I knew I could set that boundary, but I mean, I never thought about not doing it.
Yeah.
Like it was never a thing to be like, oh. I mean, I remember, Glenn and I talking about it, and it was just like, I think maybe also the fact that, we have this wedding, and it's like, I'm not gonna 120 people, and then it's just kind of like trying to figure out who knows what. To me, almost not talking about it feels like it takes up more energy. Because then I have to be like, oh, I'm talking to Caro. Does she know? Oh, I'm talking to Jackie knows this, but she doesn't know this. I'm like, So but you're right in terms of, like, I learned this, that there is that stigma in our community of like not talking about it and talking about sickness. And I think perhaps maybe it's also because I don't see it as in any way connected to my morality or connected to being good or being bad, which I think is somewhere where the fear in our community comes from, where people feel like, well, first I think there's, if I tell people who are wishing me ill, then, oh my God, people can do that. But it's like, why they don't have that power over you.
Yeah.
It's like, especially if like when it comes from the people like this, people who are like religious can very much be like, no, you don't want to talk about this because like people are wishing you ill. But it's like, isn't that contradictory to your faith? I don't know. But then, so I think there's that. And like,
maybe something I've seen as well, why people put that boundary is that sometimes when you tell somebody, for example, about cancer or any other disease, suddenly you get all these experts.
Yes.
Who give you, who remembers a herb somewhere, or they remember, like vitamin C is like
red things. That's something I was told, red vegetables.
Yes. Okay.
Oh. Yes. Beets and other red things. I'm like, what else is red beside beets, like as a vegetable?
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah. So, unsolicited doctors also come up from under the cracks.
Unsolicited doctors, unsolicited people who have been told by God about you.
I was gonna ask for unsolicited prayer warriors. Like get visions.
Yes, get visions of like, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, no, what I need to do is to follow my doctor's orders and like be positive and push through. So I suppose you do that because you do that. But to me, I guess then it comes to just the boundaries.
You had that said.
And having that circle of knowing like the people in my inner circle are good. And I know that you guys, because I include you guys in my inner circle, protected me from some of that incoming as well.
So,
I do have to say on boundaries, I really like you were very, I think this helped us navigate it well as well. But even like from the get-go, like on that Friday, like you called us and told us and we're like, all right. And the thing about our friend group is we are doers.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, okay, calendars up. What is
we had a spreadsheet set up.
Food? Is there food? Is there, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But I like how we were like, hey, actually, what do you need immediately? And we were like, give us the weekend just to process. Next week, I'll have a plan in mind and we'll have a plan and we'll communicate it. But at least just for this weekend, we just need to process. And we were like, got it.
Yeah.
But I liked how maybe it's because you also know your friend circle.
It's because
where you were like, let me get this right now. These people are about to start doing. Right?
Yes.
So it was, I really liked how you were very clear in terms of like, just give me time to process. And then now in the next week or coming weeks, now we'll figure out.
Yeah.
And also, I always say this. Everyone in my life, all my friends are spreadsheet people.
Yes, I was going to say, it's also it's the PGM, it's the program manager in me, and it's like spreadsheets. I have a spreadsheet for everything.
Yeah. And let me tell you,
yes, I'm
Monday morning,
of them all.
There was a spreadsheet. Let me tell you.
Was it really?
No, we had a spreadsheet.
I do remember making like a request spreadsheet.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was already on Monday.
Yes. Monday morning.
Actually, now I remember clearly what it was. So when we came back, you mentioned like you want to sit down and figure out what you really need. You came up with a spreadsheet with, this thing might be important. I want to be listening to music. Flowers would be nice. So you had that spreadsheet. And we were like, okay, everybody could pick something that they could do, So,
Even, might as well go into kind of like, what does treatment look like? Because there was also a spreadsheet.
but this one was not mine. You guys came up with
I did that spreadsheet. I did the spreadsheet.
So the second spreadsheet was
for accompanying you to treatment.
Yes.
And your husband did a really good job of giving us the dates and the expected dates. So I created the spreadsheet and shared, which was everybody could pick from the drop down when they were available to come with you. And I made it very colorful. It was so colorful.
the spreadsheet.
It's so colorful.
Between the two of them, also Lynn was the first person.
Yeah.
But it was like, because whenever it come from a doctor's appointment, and they'd be like, all right, here's a schedule for... And there'll be the immuno and the chemo and the surgery and this. And then it's like, he would put it in the group chat. There was a group chat.
Yes.
And then she would be like, all right, transcribe all that to the spreadsheet. And then she'd be like, folks, it's the first spreadsheet. Go and put your name there. So you go select.
You select the date, the schedule, what you do.
It was very clear.
That's funny. I never saw that. Like, I think, like, I just kind of, Glenn would just tell me like, yep, okay, Carol's coming with you. Yeah. This person is coming with you next week. So, because it was you guys, our friend Lynn, Fiona, my sister-in-law, and Glenn, my husband, right? It's like the five of you and like rotating around.
Yeah.
And I was so thankful because there was not one doctor session
that you went alone.
Went to alone.
Yeah.
Not one. Which was, I mean, and they were weekly. Right?
Yeah.
For like 6 months. It was once a week. Sometimes more than
that. Give insight into actually what treatment looks like.
Excuse me. Yeah. So for triple negative breast cancer, again, because they do not know which of these markers are causing it, it's like we just throw everything at you. Mm-hmm. So there's a standard of care that's actually worldwide. There was a study done I forget when, it's called the Keynote 522, and this is the standard of care that everybody follows. So what it is 12 rounds of chemotherapy. No. 16 rounds of chemotherapy. 6 months of chemotherapy plus immunotherapy. And then followed by surgery, followed by radiation. And so for the chemotherapy, there's also different types of chemo. So the first cycle of chemo I did was a weekly one called carbotaxol. So you do this once a week, you go in for the infusion. And then after that, there's another one, it's called AC. And this one, I can never say the actual medications in AC, but this one is every 3 weeks or every 2 or 3 weeks. I did it every 2 weeks. And, this is like, it's stronger. And also because you're doing it after the carbotaxol, the thing with chemo is that the effects are cumulative.
Yeah.
And so the longer it goes, the longer your body takes to recover. And so with AC, do kind of like 1 week chemo, and then the next week you go in for checkups. And I also had to do like some injections for helping my white blood cells to kind of recover.
Yeah.
Because the way chemotherapy works is chemo is attacking all of the fast moving cells it's attacking fast moving cells in your body, fast replicating cells in your body. And that's why it's so effective against cancer, is because cancer cells replicate very quickly. But then it's also what causes all the other side effects, right? Because that's why you lose your hair, because your hair follicles grow quickly. Fast. That's why you get like nauseous, because like it's like attacking like your stomach lining, the mucous membrane they call it. So you get like your mucous membrane is getting affected, or you get like very dry eyes or nose and stuff like that.
And also when you talk about losing hair, like even your lashes, I remember.
I had nothing. I had no eyebrows, no eyelashes. I was like waking up and being like
baby rats. Baby rat. I don't even know what I said. Baby rat.
Baby what?
Baby rats or a hamster. They're born, they're cute, and they're naked.
Completely.
Or like those. Cats are not cute. No, but she was cute.
I do remember sometimes waking up and having to like really rub my eyes together because it's like you close and they're not waking up, right? That's what your eyelashes are for.
That's my life.
It's one of the reasons. That's so I learned. And also like just your skin, right? So so then you do the chemo, and then after that you do surgery, and it's usually you have a conversation with your doctor depending on to decide what kind of surgery you will get. So for example, in my case, another thing that you do is you get tested for genetic markers. So I think most people will be familiar with the BRCA gene. So there's a gene called like BRCA, and if you have this, then you have something like a 50% chance of getting breast or ovarian cancer.
Okay.
And this is something that's genetic, right? And so if I had that gene, it came out negative for me. But if you have this, then they recommend more drastic surgical procedures, right? Like they might recommend like a mastectomy or maybe even a hysterectomy depending on, right? So, but in my case, I didn't test positive for any of the gene markers that they know of, because I think there definitely is a genetic history for me. But then, so because I reacted positively to the chemotherapy, then we could just do a lumpectomy, which is a smaller surgery where it's just kind of like they just take the part of the breast, the tissue around there where the cancer was, instead of like
the entire
the whole
mastectomy where they kind of take the whole breast off. So so I had surgery. They took that off, and then they always take some lymph nodes out. And they did the test. Thankfully, I had the best possible outcome. Right, like I was all clear. And then after recovering from surgery, I had radiation. And radiation therapy, it's so interesting because it's one of the most exhausting parts of the therapy. But what makes it exhausting is the fact that you have to go to the hospital 5 days a week. Right? Like, so you go in every day, Monday to Friday. Monday to Friday, you have to go in. But the actual radiation appointment, like, you're in and out of the hospital in like 15 minutes most of the time. And you're only under the machine for like, I don't know, like 2 minutes. And 1 minute, 30 seconds of those is them setting up the machine, right? So it's really just kind of,
taxing, but for such a small...
It's taxing for a small thing, but I think part of what makes it so taxing is the going back again and again. But then also, then it did in terms of like physical side effects. Like that's one of the ones that I'm still kind of.
Oh, that's the one that
it really tightens your muscles. Like it's literally just like like a laser burning you, right? So because like I had like you could see from when I got the radiation, it's like you get like really bad sunburn, like your skin turns black. You remember?
Maybe to just step back about the chemotherapy itself. I know that was also quite taxing because also immunotherapy was part of the chemotherapy. Could you maybe just talk about a little bit of what happened, like how that looked like, as well as what is immunotherapy? Because I think that's not very common.
Yes. So immunotherapy is, I think it's relatively new, I think, in cancer terms, right? Like we're talking less than 20 years. But so, like I said, the way chemo works is it's attacking the fast-moving cells. Indiscriminate, just like, fast-moving cells, like kill them.
This is medicine through your...
this is all intravenous. So actually, I had, it's called a port. So they put like, it's literally just like a device that's connected to one of your arteries. And then that's from where you get your infusions. Because if you have to do it through the veins, again, like after you're doing this like once a week, like all these weeks in a row, and also the cancer medication is toxic, right? And so like it can like affect your so like it's much better to do it through like a port. So actually that was the second surgery I had. Yes, it was to install a port that I used for treatment for that. So immunotherapy, how it's different is it's more targeted, right? So cancer cells are very smart and they know how to like coexist with your immune system, right? So like your white blood cells, they can, I don't know if it's a camouflage or just coexist, but the white blood cells don't attack them, right? And so immunotherapy kind of like creates pathways to be like, hey, no, these are not good cells. You should actually be attacking them, right? And so that's my high level. I'm sure some of my doctor friends will watch this and be like,
maybe they can put in the comments
what I got wrong.
This is like, wait, no.
This is my layman's understanding of immunotherapy. And so immunotherapy for triple negative breast cancer, the regimen is you get immunotherapy every 3 weeks for a year. So actually this kept going after. So I had it with chemo and I had it for 6 months after chemotherapy. And like they've shown that, if you do this combination, it reduces the recurrence rate. And it's very like positive. I'm hopeful that, maybe 15, 20 years from now, chemotherapy is like only for certain types of breast cancer, and they'll have figured out, or just cancer in general, and they'll have figured out how to target with more immunotherapy.
Okay.
Yeah. But you were asking about the effects?
No, just the whole experience. Yeah, like, yeah.
And were there any side effects that stood out?
Yes, there were.
Yeah.
Like when they turned in, and cancer turned me into a white woman. No, sorry, no offense, but that was a joke. But no, because you know how we always joke that like white people don't use washcloths.
Oh yeah.
And
you couldn't touch your skin. Yeah.
So then one of the worst effects I had was I just got like extremely itchy, and it's almost like I was allergic to water. Like I couldn't shower with any like first of all, I couldn't use hot water and anything abrasive. I would just like something abrasive, and it would like I would shower, and it would take me like an hour to get dressed and just kind of like calming down for everything, right? And then, but the thing is, I don't know if I told you this, but the first time this happened, or like the really worst time it happened, was I thought I was being smart, and I was like, oh, let me change my washcloth. I had the loofah, right? It's like, let me get a new one because I'm sick. Like, let's get a whatever.
Yeah.
So I changed it. And then because it was new, it was more abrasive. And so I just like washing. And then I remember I went back, and I just remember I was like, that first time I was crying, and I was telling Glenn, I was like, make it stop. Make it stop. And
yeah.
Like, I don't know. And then ridiculous me, because in some places I wouldn't work, but sometimes I was working. So after having this meltdown of making it stop, and then I like calmed down, I wanted to go back to work.
Oh.
I was working from home. And Glenn was like, what's wrong with you? Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, just relax. Just relax. Like, you don't need to. And I was like, no, but I'm fine now. I cried. I'm good. Let's go back to work. So anyway, that was probably, I mean, it's just itchiness. Whew, but man, that did a number on me, right? Because it's like, to this day now, there's like certain fabrics I cannot wear.
That's still
it was hard to sit down, right? Like I remember there was one chemo treatment. There was like my last carbotaxol treatment. I did standing up because it was like sitting down on like the treatment on like the bed in the clinic was just like it was too much. And then eventually, like I think I got medication, and that calmed it down. But yeah, I mean, even in my wedding, right? It was like my sister was there with like a bag full of just prescription lotions and different things,
all the creams and
all the creams for me to put on, because that was probably the worst one for me.
And your hair also fell out. Yeah.
The hair, but sure? I mean, we chopped off my hair before.
You pre-prepped by chopping it off.
Yeah, and I think because I had cut my hair off before.
Yeah.
Losing my hair was not as traumatic as it can be. And for a lot of women, it is a very traumatic experience.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'd had short hair before. I was like, okay, you know what? I'll be bald, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
So that specific part wasn't as traumatic. And then, like, I guess I'm trying to think. I was very, very lucky when it comes to side effects, right? Like I didn't get like bad nausea. I didn't get some during the second one I'd get like maybe some migraines and things like that. But in the grand scheme of things, especially when I talk to other women who are going through or have gone through similar things, I was very lucky when it came to side effects. Yeah. And
talking about hair, let me take you back. I came with you for a couple of sessions, like one of the sessions within the week. And first of all, I realized like there are a lot of women who are going through this. In the hospital, you would walk in and there's a chair and a chair and a chair because it was breast centrum, so mainly for breast cancer. And the women seated there and I was like, oh, wow. Like sometimes when you're outside, you don't realize what happens behind closed doors in the hospital.
Yeah.
And hair specifically, especially in this country, women pride themselves with their hair. And I saw the therapy that they had for hair where they had these ice packs.
Cold caps.
Cold caps,
Called, yes.
So they put, when you're having your chemo session, you also wear this cap that is made of ice or something. They had one for your hands and feet as well, I guess, for one of the sessions. But the women would have these cold caps that they would sit under, and I imagined how uncomfortable it was because that preserves their hair. The follicles.
It doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work.
It doesn't. No, it's not like, if you get cold cap, and also for these caps you have to get fitted for them to be like
it is custom made.
And so, for example, I remember the nurse. So when you get your treatment plan, you meet with the oncologist, and she tells you, here's all the ways that chemo could kill you. Please sign here.
What?
I mean, not in the ways, but that I'm joking. But they really tell you like all the side effects, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. Okay, please sign. And then you meet with a breast care nurse. Similar thing. She kind of walks you through like, this could happen, this could happen. But then in this case, she'll be like, this could happen. Like, here's what the medicine that you can take for this, or here's like a cream that you can use for this, right? And so when she mentioned also like, you're gonna lose your hair because of the carbon tax. And she's like, you can do a cold cap. And she, even in that session, she was like, I haven't seen it be too successful with women of your hair type. And most of the women I've seen who have like very curly hair, where it's hard, it's like the shape of your head. A lot of things determine it. So for some people, it's like, it depends. Maybe you're lucky and you only lose hair in the middle and you can camouflage. But if you still lose your hair on the sides, and then maybe you stay your hair in the middle, then like what's the point? And then some people, for them it works. But no, imagine it's not like it's guaranteed. And I don't know. I think it's minus degrees, and you put it on because the idea is that it's preventing blood flow to your hair. So then the medication like doesn't reach there. So, but hair is can be a really traumatic thing for people.
Yeah, but you're also right, because that's one of the things I was thinking of. I'm like, you could just be walking past people in the street and it's like you just have no clue. But it was surprising how like all the beds would be full. And then think about that you have a schedule, like you have a window. So you finish, you leave, somebody else is coming. It's not like that's just they're only doing the people who are there. It's just people coming in and out, and I'm just like, whoa. That was like eye-opening. Rightly said, you walk past these buildings and you have no idea you don't know what could be happening on.
And even just like you see people and like you don't know what's going on, right? Because I mean, like, how many times were we'd go out for ice cream afterwards, or we'll go for a walk and you see and you have no idea what someone is going through in a given moment. I think that probably was one of the biggest lessons of just like, you just never know what people are going through behind closed doors. And also like one of the things that happened with sharing is a lot of people like reached out to me. And again, I think at the time it surprised me. I think everybody has either had cancer or knows somebody who's had cancer. Like, very, very few people are not impacted by like knowing some directly. Very, very few. It's just like you said, and it's unfortunate that we don't talk about it. But
just quick. I don't know if you have any thoughts in mind, but did you feel like there was something that stood out about navigating treatment, like just from a cultural perspective, like here versus if you were in the US? Did anything stand out to you? Also, we're in Switzerland, so the number of Black people is... I don't even think we're hitting that 1%.
No.
But like, were there any things that also stood out in terms of, like, for example, you were saying like the cold caps, they're like those that doesn't work well with your kind of hair texture. Or are there things you're finding out also along the way in terms of like, turns out this doctor is an expert, but there are things here they're also like, you're the
first so trying to figure out.
I know exactly. I know the example you're thinking of. I will share that in a minute. There's a specific incident that Jackie and I had at the hospital. But before I get there, I think, say, in terms of specifically being in Europe and being in Switzerland specifically, I could just worry about getting better. And that is such a privilege.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because as soon as I hit my copay, which I hit in the first CT scan, I was like, yep, okay, like my copay has been hit.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about, like, there was not a cent, right, that you had to worry about doing that.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky with work, right? Like, one where being in Switzerland, like, you're protected with sick leave.
Yeah.
But also, two, I had a very supportive team, a very supportive manager who could just be like, you do the best, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
So I think that would have been different. Like, even when I talk to people who are going through the treatment in the US, it is different, right? Because you have to do like FMLA and like insurance, and the way you navigate just like the medical costs, right? Just not having that as a worry was really big. Another thing that I've noticed, I think is maybe unique to Europe, is one of the things you get access to as an option is a psycho-oncologist. And that's just standard part of your treatment. And having her was so helpful with just processing everything. And it wasn't just open to me, it was open to my husband, right? So like just having that professional who can talk to, and the benefit of a psycho-oncologist additionally is like I don't have to explain the oncology terms to them. They are psychiatrists as well who also studied oncology.
So this is psychiatrists, or you sort of get therapy for you and your family when you're going through this. So,
So in Switzerland specifically, there's an organization called the Krebsliga, which Krebs is cancer. So like the Cancer League, and it's a non-profit organization. And they give therapy. I think they also do like physio sessions and stuff to, family members and also like people going through cancer treatment.
Okay.
And
that's
that,
a privilege.
I think that should not be overlooked.
No.
In many cases, many situations, people don't think about the carer as well. So it's really good to see that they also think about the carer's well-being, right? So also extending services to them, and they also don't have to worry about, does this cost? Where is this? Like making sure that they don't think about just the patient, but like the system around them. That's really good to know.
Yeah. And then the other one thing you were asking is like culturally, right? I mean, yes, there were certainly some instances where, only a few, where like certain doctors were just, be like, oh, okay, you just never dealt with a black patient before. Like, when at some point, I don't know what was happening, but like with one of the chemos, I was getting like a lot of like dark spots, and like my nails turned
black,
right? And like went black. And then I remember this was one of the sessions Jackie came with me. My oncologist, who is amazing, was not there. So we had like someone else there. And this doctor, I was like explaining to him, I was like, yo, like this is happening. I'm looking. He looks at my hands. He doesn't even like say, like 3 seconds. He says, that you definitely have like hand, foot, and mouth disease. That's hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Hand, foot, and mouth?
Yeah. And then he goes on his monitor, Googles the thing, and turns, and then says, actually, no, what was happening is your hands were itchy.
Yes.
And he was saying it happens when you... Was it when you...
It's like when I wash, when I
wash
like water.
Certain soap or something.
Yes.
He's just like, oh, okay. He's like, and turns is like, so that's hand, foot, and mouth. I'm like, no, but her hands are itching.
Yeah.
Then he like now looks at her hands and says, you see, your
lines.
He
says, yes.
He said your lines should not be black. So I'm like, sir,
thank God,
thank God you were there.
Like, what do you mean? We are black.
Yeah, Jackie was like, but mine are also dark.
He was surprised. He just never knew black people have black lines. Honestly. Dark lines. I was just like,
yeah.
Should have shown him your face.
And then he's like, and then starts speaking something, then turns, and then he's like, No, then he's like, just go to the nurse and go to... And I'm just like...
That was very dismissive.
It was very dismissive. Yeah. And actually, when my oncologist came back, I was like, next time you're gone,
not that guy.
I don't want to see him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very lucky because sometimes people like do switch doctors because like you have this, and especially if you're black. But I was very lucky with my oncologist. She's brilliant. also has like amazing bedside manner, and like really listens and like remembers things, very personable. So but yes, that's the one example. And you know, for me specifically, knowing that especially in Switzerland there are not a lot of Black women who are doing this, that was one of my reasons for being like, yes, please do use me for all of the clients. Like I was like, yes, please use my data because hope, you never know. You never know.
Another thing I saw at the hospital, which was probably on the other side of the white women who go through this, is that they don't know how to tie a scarf. So there was scarves.
There was head wraps.
There were sessions. Yes. There were sessions to show them how to tie scarves. I guess when they lose their hair and they don't want to walk around bald. And I was like, oh, bless you. Oh my gosh. Things we take also for granted.
Honestly,
Yes.
I just remembered that there was like an organization where you could buy a wig and get reimbursed. And I never did.
Okay.
Anyway, it's like I already had.
That's also nice.
But I also learned like way back that wigs here, especially the ones made for people who are going through cancer, like chemotherapy, they cost almost $1,000.
Oh yeah.
A lot of money. $1,000, 1,000 Swiss francs, because they specifically target that market. So if you were to buy that, it would have been.
It should have been cheap. It should be cheaper if they target it.
You go somewhere, Amazon, you will get a wig for 150. Even that is a lot of money.
What we should just do.
Yes.
Go on Amazon.
Yes, girl. Yes.
Wig.
Yeah. But they're very expensive. Somebody had told me that as a business idea, actually.
That's money bastard.
Yes.
Well, okay. Now, I want to talk about kind of challenges of kind of going through this young, but also how that affected your identity, because you mentioned work a few times and how you were like, and then I just went to work.
Yes.
Right. So like, just talk a bit through that.
Okay. So I guess with work, I remember, I think it was sometime the year before. I remember telling my manager, I was like, okay, look, I have this window over the next 2 years where I can focus on my career. Because after that, not sure what's going to happen. Like we might need to move or like whatever. So I was like, okay. And then of course, like you get cancer. Oh, did I tell you sorry guys, I keep saying, did I tell you I'm talking to them? Because like these are my friends just having a chat. But so Friday I get diagnosed with cancer. On Monday, I found out that like my promotion didn't go through.
Oh, was that the Monday?
Yeah, it was 3 days later.
That was a blow, I would imagine. Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Okay. Yeah. But actually looking back on it, I'm like, maybe that was a good thing. Because then navigating like the pressure of coming back with all of this, that would have been tricky. But I think interestingly for me, one of the things that I learned is that I actually do enjoy what I do. I do like my work. I think it made me realize like, oh, maybe I want to do like maybe pivot in a certain direction. But it was like nice to kind of realize like, oh, I do enjoy my work. But I had already been on a journey. Specifically, I would say it started before moving to Switzerland. But moving to Switzerland was a really big thing of just being like, I'm not gonna make work the center of my life. As it's an important part of my life, but I was like, I'm not gonna make work is not gonna be my identity. Right. And so it was so then in that sense, I think I maybe it accelerated that journey that I was already on, of just being like, I'm more than what I do for work. But then I was also very lucky with my team where I could just go in and out. It's like, okay, this few months I'm working 60%, this couple months I'm completely off. Sometimes I'm like, oh, if I look back on it, should I have just taken the full time off? But I think for me, it was helpful to have something to do,
some familiarity,
something to think about that wasn't cancer, but not to be able to do it 100% of the time. For me, it was important to have that balance, because if it was just at home and I'm just like thinking about cancer all the time and nothing okay, maybe I can go for walks and I can do all that. I don't know. I liked having just something else to kind of challenge my brain.
Was it giving you a sense of normalcy? Like it's
yes,
the place that there was less chaos. So it's like that's where I can go to because it's like
yes,
okay.
Yeah, it's
Especially-
something. I thought the same. Like it's something you're good at, you love doing. So
Yes.
even though we may look at work as this thing that most people will just go to because it's needed to, for you it was your normalcy.
Yes.
It was also familiarity.
Yeah.
Again, when you're
Yeah.
going through something traumatic,
Yes.
you always want to step back into something more familiar, more easier. So I understand that part.
100%. Yeah, the familiarity and yeah, I think also just kind of like that, like you said, the organized, because I'm a program manager, so like I plan, I organize, right? Just being able to be like, yes, this is structured and this works.
Yeah.
And then with life, again, I think I'm so thankful because I remember one of my early realizations was like, I like my life, like I love my life. I love the life I've built, like my friendship, my relationship, like my family. Like I kind of was like, oh, I really love my life and I just want to protect it and have more of it. And, like sometimes people, when you get sick, you have these revelations of like, I wish I would have, whatever. But for me, it was a lot of like, oh, I'm so glad I took all those trips, like I'm so like, there's only one trip I regret like not going on, right? Where it's like, oh, I wish I had gone on that. I would gone to Peru with my brother.
Yeah.
Like literally everything else, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I took that trip. I'm so glad that I have like a good network of friends. I'm so glad that I have a circle. I'm so glad I have a good relationship with my, so it was kind of like man, I'm thankful for the life that I've built and kind of maybe wanting to like, I want to hold on to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like sort of a revelation of the part that you have done so much already, and I love my life. I said, good job.
Yeah.
You're like, you've done well.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, but I think there's certain things like, for example, last month or 2 months ago, right? We took a month off to travel.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have done that before. Like that amount of time in the middle of the year, just to be like, this is the only time we can both like get time off. Like, let's just take a whole month off to travel.
Yeah.
And also like, let's go all out.
Yeah.
Right. One thing that did change was I think I'm much more, is loose the right word? I think more loose with my money. Stop it.
Loose with, you're not holding tight to your finances.
Yes, like with my what do you mean?
Okay, fine.
Oh, come on, no, like
That loose was
what you're saying is like,
but that loose was
my
in a spreadsheet.
definition. No, okay, yes, I still have a spreadsheet. Fine.
But you're, I remember when you were talking about finances at some point, like earlier on when we met in Dublin, like you had this idea of I'm gonna work, I'm gonna go into FIRE, which is like financially
like financial independence, retire early.
Yeah. So you wanted to do that. So I felt like you had like this aggressive plan
Yes.
around saving
like,
and being a bit frugal.
Yes.
So like you feel like after this, it's sort of, you relaxed more, sort of went into living in the moment, not thinking too much about that big future plan about money, or is it still there in a different way?
Yeah. It's still there, but it's less like, oh my God, if I don't save X percent of my income, then I must, then it's like, no, it's like, you know what? If we save less, even if we go some months where we don't save and we enjoy life, as long as you're on track, it's fine.
Yeah.
Now, again, this is where maybe privilege comes in. I did have the privilege of having had those years of saving and having a cushion to where I can just be like, you know what?
Yeah.
It's fine. You can just chill. Right? You can, you don't, I'm not like being reckless, but, I'm also not like, oh, no, we have to do this. Like, you know what? Go all out. Buy that thing. Book the nice hotel. Right? So it's a bit of that, much more of that. I'm just like, oh yeah, let's do that. With my money. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, and maybe we touched on this earlier, but maybe we kind of talk through what it was. One, how you had structured your support system, but how that played a role in kind of going through the
treatment. Yeah. So you guys heard of ring theory, right? No. Which is the idea. I mean, it's kind of like if you just imagine concentric rings, right? And so it's the idea where it's like when someone's going through it. So like in this case, when I'm going through the cancer, I'm like this super middle ring, right? And then the immediate ring, let's say it's like Glenn, right? Because he's like there with me every single day. And then there's like, you guys and my family, right? Like my close friends and like my, like my family also include my in-laws there, right? And then there's like, so it's kind of like you have this. And the idea is that, the support is going inwards, right? So for example, you guys were supporting me, but you were also supporting Glenn, right?
Yeah.
Or like, let's say when I'm like, when you have like, things that you're like stressed out about, like Glenn could talk to like people in his range, right? Yeah. Like I can talk to people in my range. So it's not like it works perfectly like this, but that's the image that comes to mind when I think of my support system was like, I was again very lucky, like we live down the street from each other. Like our other friend Lynn is like down the street, right? And like you're one trauma away. One trauma away, right? Yeah. So I had people, and then my in-laws are like less than an hour away. My sister-in-law is very close. So I had people who were physically close who could be there. And I was like, Glenn lives with me. Yeah. Right? And so like having that. And then, just like the emotional support, because my family, they're not in Switzerland, right? But, they calling me multiple times a week, like checking in on me, right? Like my, I have some close friends also, right? So kind of like have those people who, the emotional support is also equally important in addition to just having like that physical one. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Yeah. It does. I was going to ask, this might be random. Is there a part of having gone through everything that you had underestimated and popped and came like maybe stuck out as, whoa, that part was difficult, even if maybe you had assumed that maybe it's the chemo is the one that would kick my ass, but something else was.
The itchiness is probably, I was like, it was not on the list that anybody, like they gave me all of the side effects. This was not one of them. And this is the one that like really did me in. So maybe there was that. But I think, and I don't know if this is moving more to kind of like the recovery. The thing is, when you're going through like treatment, right? And I think this is the same for any kind of trauma. In the moment, it's like that initial moment where you're just trying to make it through. So when I was going through chemo, until I finished chemo, I was just like, yep, appointment, like you're processing, and I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to my psycho-oncologist, and we're talking. But I think there's a section of your brain that's in survival mode. Yeah. So it wasn't until, because I had an ultrasound at the end of chemotherapy, and then the doctor was like, oh, we need to confirm with surgery, but it looks like, the chemo has done what we wanted it to do, and like the cancer is gone. I was like, so they call it like a complete response to chemo, but you still have to confirm with surgery. And so after that, and then I had about 6 weeks between chemo finishing and my surgery. That was the lowest point emotionally of my whole journey, because I think it's the first time when I was finally able to process, yo, you have cancer. And actually, I remember saying it like this to my psycho-oncologist. So I was like, it's like I had a complete response to chemo. So I was like, okay, so I don't have cancer. But then all of a sudden it's like, wait, that means I had cancer.
Oh, yeah.
What? What are you talking about? And that's when I really, for the first time, like grieved, even like, oh man, like where I thought my career was going to go, or like the wedding that actually in the end our wedding was perfect. But it's still like, it wasn't like like there was this kind of like, oh, we were supposed to travel here. And, like I thought that I was going to be doing XYZ, and also just like, what is my life going to look like now? it wasn't until then that I think maybe I finally had the space to process that. And I think this is quite common.
Yeah.
Where, it's not until you maybe like have gotten through the you've survived the worst waves that finally you're like, okay, starting to process. But even then, it's like now there's certain things that I'm still recovering from, right? In terms of just feeling safe in my body and trusting my body to feel safe, right? Like, a couple of weeks ago, I had like some sharp pain, which I think was mainly because I hadn't worked out in a while. I started working out again, and like my muscles were contracted. But I was like, oh God, it's back, right?
Yeah.
And so like processing all of that, that's probably the thing that I didn't expect the most.
Actually, it's true that you say that. I've had this with people who've been through like traumatic experiences before, but apparently they say it's a way your brain protects you from yourself. So it breaks down, and you're like dealing with just, what's the next thing? Then what's the next thing? Then when you're over it, then now like the brain lets you now be like,
process.
wait, what happened? What were we doing? What? It's a common thing.
I think we discussed this, but also it happens like even in small things, like you're so much in survival mode. Like just get the next thing done, move from here. And I guess having like things to do and things planned, and you being project manager.
You're just going to be making people think like I live my whole life on spreadsheets.
No, but it's also easier, I guess, to process because you're like, then this, then do this, So it keeps you moving through, and then after you're like, you can sit down now and be like,
And but that sitting down and like, okay, just being is also something that I would say maybe I kind of learned to do, right? Like I think I had to learn to like let you guys take care of me, right? Because I'm just like, you want to be doing, right? It's like you feel like, okay, Cara's, here spending the night, but I still need to like do something because we're at my place, and it's like, or even Glenn would just be like, just get better, just be, right? And that's something I think I won't lie and say I've fully learned it, but I've learned much better of it with kind of just being, like through this whole process.
Okay, so maybe talk about like what's life been like navigating life post cancer.
It's interesting because it's like it's always going to be a part of me, right? So, for example, I still had to do immunotherapy until June, right? And I had like surgery to remove the port. So even though I officially finished my treatment in January, like I still have, had like the ongoing treatment. And then it's like, I see my oncologist every 3 months. And then I know I'm going to see my surgeon every 6 months for the next 5 years. Yes, every 6 months, because what the research shows is that like the likelihood of recurrence is the highest in the first 5 years. And then after that, like your chance, if the cancer doesn't recur, your chance of the cancer recurring is the same as someone who has not gotten cancer. So that's why they do 5 years. Right? So it's kind of like, what I mean? So it's like, it's always there. I suppose one of the nicest things is like getting my schedule back and being able to travel more, right? Which
and plan more.
More spreadsheets.
It's very interesting, and I'm sure both of you have had this experience, right? Where when you're in the thing, you kind of have certain clarity, and you're like, you think about things a certain way, and then at some point things go back to normal. And you almost like those worries that you didn't have when you had that clarity, they start to come back, right? And you're like, I start to plan a little bit more and to do things a little bit more. So I'm trying to find that balance. So I think there's the physical side and the emotional side. The physically, I mentioned like I was really one of the lucky ones, like. There were, even though like most of the days, even if it was like a 5-minute walk or a 5-minute, Grow with Joe YouTube, like walking video. I was able to do a little bit of something and so I think that helped me to like recover faster, right? So, you know, I did change. For example, I used to be very much a like weights person, and now I'm more like I want to go outside and I like running now, and right. So I think just because I think nature I found I enjoy more to be more healing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still dealing with like certain like the muscles. It takes, I think my physio said it takes like a year and a half almost for like your muscles to like really like loosen up a bit. So like there's still that, but again, it's minor. Emotionally, it goes and comes, right? And I think the biggest thing that I'm processing recently is how to feel safe in my body again with those small things, right? And like how to because I mean it's almost it feels like a betrayal, right? When something like this happens, especially when it's like you didn't have any symptoms and all of a sudden this thing has happened, you know, building that trust and being like, no, not every sharp pain means the cancer is back. That is still something that I think that's something that I'm still working. It's like interesting because like I thought I'd worked through it, but then like I said a couple of weeks ago, I had just something that like triggered me, and I was like, okay, still some work to do there. So that one is still a work in progress.
Is there help like within like therapy that helps with post-cancer treatment? Are there like services like those that are offered?
So the Krebs Liga I mentioned, that would be that's open, right? But it's because they're open also to like survivors. And it's not just like people who are going through active treatment. It's open to it. So that would be an option. But it's like the style of therapy that my psycho-oncologist was doing. I think it's like we can do one-off sessions, but in terms of like ongoing sessions, maybe not. So, but I am seeing like a therapist, right? And we're just kind of like, reviewing this idea of safety and this idea of, I think also just acknowledging that I did a hard thing. I think, you know.
A very hard thing.
And it's interesting because I am one of the lucky ones. And because I did have such a good outcome. And I think also because I'm a generally like positive person, I didn't until recently, I don't think I ever said, I went through a really hard thing. Period. Without a but. I would be like, cancer was really difficult, but XYZ. And, you know, like that gratitude is really important for kind of like pushing you through, and like it you know, it does really like get you through. At the same time, it's like finding that balance of how do I let myself like live in that processing of like I went through a hard thing and sit in it and trust that I can come out of it, right? Because it's like, and not feel afraid of like, no, but right? It's like, no, you went through a really hard thing.
I'm just going to mention this sort of to say 1 year after you ran a 10K marathon.
Oh, 10K, yeah.
It was a 10K? Yes, you did a 10K marathon, which was amazing. On your 1 year anniversary. Yes.
Yeah, the Zurich 10K.
Okay, yes.
It's like, they do marathon, half marathon. I did the 10K.
Yeah.
But it happened to be exactly on the 1 year from the day I was diagnosed.
Yes.
And that was really magical actually to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember when I finished, I was like, I just cried and cried. It's like, whew.
It's like all coming together, just telling you how much of a strong fighter you are, you know? I think so. Yeah.
Is there, maybe you already said it before, things from that period that you're like, I want to carry that with me?
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't know where it came from. I think my husband can be just randomly poetic sometimes. But I remember like at some very, very early on, right? I just remember I was scared, and I was like, I told him like, I'm scared. And, he was like, it's okay to be scared, but we're stronger than our fears.
Yeah.
And then at some point, then we were like, okay, we need to find two other things to be our motto. So it was always like, we're stronger than our fears. We can do hard things.
Yeah.
And we give each other strength. And, those three affirmations really kind of, we really anchored on that. And, especially like the first two, like you're stronger than your fear. Like it's okay to be afraid, but you're stronger than your fear.
Yeah.
That's something that I tried to, I take on. And then also just like, we can do hard things.
Yeah.
That strength of like, can do hard things.
And also acknowledging that it is a hard thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think also that's one of the hardest thing to do, to acknowledge there is actually a hard thing.
That is a very good point.
Because
you're like, well, other people go through work, especially, cancer support groups, and, you see like messages and you see what other people are going through, and I'm like, mine's not that bad.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make it like
it doesn't
hard.
make it less.
Yeah.
The only thing I think of usually an analogy is like things like something like grief. Yes. Everyone goes through grief, right? It's the order of life. It is what it is. As someone told me, unfortunately, we won't live here alive. I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then, as much as everyone goes through it, it's unique to every person.
Yeah.
Just because everyone has gone through it does not mean that
yours.
You should just not, because it happens to everyone.
Yeah.
No, like you should still process, because it's still a hard thing.
Yes.
And it's unique to you. How you're processing it is unique to you. So like you should go through it. It's the same thing. Like, yes, many people get cancer, but it's still a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Regardless of the spectrum.
Yes.
And you did a hard thing and like got over it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So you shouldn't feel that, those guys are having it worse.
Yeah.
There's gratitude in it, but also you did a hard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, also just kind of this idea of, I think also the thing that sickness, and I think maybe I'd say most any trauma tells you, just kind of like you're not in control as much as you thought you were, right? And for planners like me, this is a lesson that, you really need, because it's like, you think like life is going to go like this, XYZ is going to happen. It's like, it may or it may not.
Yeah.
So, like as, Muslims say, like, inshallah, like if it happens.
Yeah.
So it's like, I will plan for this, but also it may not,
Yeah.
I never buy non-refundable tickets now.
Yeah.
That's one small thing.
All my tickets to get you guys on board with. You just buy your ticket 1 week to the event.
No.
Last minute ticket buying never takes you. It's always
You can get travel insurance actually.
Yes, I did have travel insurance.
You did have travel insurance, because you had to cancel even the honeymoon.
Yes, I did get reimbursed
for the honeymoon.
Actually, do you know what? We were very lucky that when we got the diagnosis, most vendors, it's like 90 days is like the maximum before they can refund you. I think we were at like 93 or 94 days. So we canceled, and there was one that actually waived all our fees.
Yeah.
But so actually we were able to cancel most things within the and not lose our deposit. Yeah. And the ones that we were within, actually except for this one person who lied to us.
What advice would you give to women, specifically maybe women of African descent, who could be going through something similar or something like this within their family?
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, I can obviously only speak from the perspective of someone living in Europe, right? Yeah. And I know that it looks a bit different if you're living like in Kenya specifically.
Yeah.
But I mean, first I would say to all women, just check your boobs, right?
Yeah.
Like it's something that you can do at home. There's a bunch of YouTube videos, like Instagram videos that show, takes like 15 seconds. Just do that, right?
Or get someone to check for you.
Okay. Get someone to check for you, right?
That, yeah. You should also get someone to check for you.
Yeah. And what's good because also it's like our bodies are different, and just getting in the habit of checking, like it means that you know what's normal for you, and so that when you feel something unusual, you'll be able to recognize it. Do you know what I mean? Because for example, I know a lot of Black women, we have dense breasts, right? And so it's like it's not as easy to kind of like feel like lumps or something like this. But if you're more consistent, I have a reminder on my calendar once a month. It says check your boobs, right? So that's one thing I could say that everybody can do. Because also when it comes to cancer, like time is of the essence.
Yeah.
Catching it earlier is better, right? And so, you know, if you just have a question about something, you get it checked out, and also advocate for yourself, right? You know your body best. And so, you know, advocate for yourself, go get checked out. And, you know, like I said, with cancer, earlier is better. And it is scary and it is difficult, but it's better to like know and go through it. And honestly, once you're in it, like, you know, like I said, you're in it and you go through it like one day at a time.
Yeah.
So that's that. In terms of going through the journey, don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. Like your support system makes such a big difference, right? And again, it doesn't have to be like in my case, you know, I'm very lucky to have like a super supportive partner who's always there.
Yeah.
But even with that, like that wasn't my only support system. Like I said, I have my amazing friends and my in-laws, right? And so, you know, bring in your community and let people take care of you.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that we as African women are not raised to do. We're raised to be the caretakers and strong. And it's like, you know, it's okay. You're still strong because you're going through this thing. Like, let people take care of you. So I would definitely say that. And, you know, just in general, like, you're not getting cancer because you did something wrong.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately a thing that happens.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I think you guys were talking about a few weeks ago how good things happen to bad people.
Yeah.
Bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as like, you know, this thing is happening because I did X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you can find it in yourself to separate sickness from like morality or goodness, right? Because it's not your fault you got cancer. It's not your fault. It's not, you know, your sister's fault. Like, it's not anybody's fault that this thing happened to them. Right? I guess there's like rare cases where, I don't know, someone has been smoking their whole life and they get lung cancer. But even then, you know, it's like,
there are also people who smoke all their lives and never get
it. And people who get lung cancer and never
had smoked.
Right? And so like, it's not your fault, and just, you know, accept help. And then, you know, I think specifically from the African perspective, I don't know how to say this, like, religion.
Speaking my language.
I mean, it's great to believe, right?
Yeah.
Have your beliefs, but also, like, the God you're believing in, he also made the doctors.
Yeah, that's true.
He also gave them the knowledge
for the medication
and all that, right? And so, you know, getting medical help, getting medical treatment is not a betrayal of your faith. It's not, right? Because there's very many doctors who are religious.
People of faith, yes.
Right? Like people of faith, right? Like, these things are not connected. It's like you know, good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people. Just life happens.
Yeah.
And, you know, just, you know, accept that. And then the last thing maybe I would say is just talk about it in general, because, you know, you'd be surprised how there might be a family history in your family.
Definitely.
But you don't talk about it because it's like, oh, you know, it's taboo, it's whatever. But it's like, if 3 of your aunties and, your your grandmas and all of, like, say, if on one side of the family, if you have like 50% of the women there who maybe got breast cancer, there's something genetic. And again, genetics doesn't mean you did something wrong.
Yeah.
It just is. Yeah. And that knowledge can then help you, because it just means, like, for example, what the doctor said to me is like, probably what that means is like it seems that there's enough people in your family who've gotten cancer, but it's like, it's not one of the genes we know about, but it just means that we need to, people in your family should get tested more often, right? They recommend doing a mammogram once every 2 years. Maybe you guys should go in like once a year, right? Like that's what it means. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
That's really poignant. Like, know your family history.
Yes.
Because I think one of the things that surprised even me, who I think I go regularly enough to a doctor, etc. I remember when I moved to Europe and I went for my first physical, and I was surprised I couldn't feel much for family history. And they're like, no, but we need to know. So I had to call home and be like, okay, what happened here? What happened to this person? And what happened to this, etc. Yeah. Because that dictates things like, like my dad passed from cancer. So now there's certain things like my brothers have to go for certain checkups like in their 40s. Now that I'm in my 40s, there's certain checkups I have to do, etc. So there's so much prevention, but I had no clue. I could only say to my dad, I didn't know, grandfather, no clue.
Yeah.
Great, no clue, right? And then also even how you were saying, and which I really appreciate that you were like, oh no, I'll give my information out, is the more we get tested, already there's not enough research on women.
Yeah.
There is even less for Black women.
Yes.
Right? And for Black people, it's way less. So this data goes towards them being able to know, like, oh, this gene
is prevalent. Yeah.
This is helpful, right? So like, I know there's a thing about in our community about people just don't go get checked. Like, no, unless it's like really dire is when you go show up. This data really helps.
It does.
So as we think about things like legacies that we leave for our children, or our world will live better for our children and children's children, part of that is data and information that should be able to help them, such that as they're building like cures for some of these diseases and everything, let's make sure that those cures also cover us.
Yeah.
Right?
Cover
us. That doesn't happen out of the ether.
Yes.
It's based on having enough data sets and for them to understand, okay, this reacts this way with this race, etc. So it's also beneficial for us to know our history.
Yes.
But go and get checked, because then this information does benefit generations coming.
Definitely.
100%.
Yeah. Reminds me of that data set that was missing for foot and mouth.
Yes.
The doctor would know we have dark lines.
The doctor will know we have dark lines. Yes. They're treating Black people. Yes.
Like,
and they're itchy. Yes.
It was just like, we just were like, what?
Yes.
Yeah. I just look at him like, what?
Yeah, like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm telling you, my hands are itchy. Like, yes, I have some spots, but that's just like happening.
Yeah.
And I remember him going like, is that how your hands look like? I'm like, yes.
When he looked at your hands, he was like real in it, and we were like, yes, we're just Black.
Really? Oh, shocking. Any thoughts? Any parting thoughts?
Maybe parting thoughts. First of all, I want to express a lot of gratitude for accepting the invite to come on the podcast. Yeah. We don't take it for granted, for sure. And your openness and courage for sharing this with us and our viewers and listeners. And like acknowledging that you went through a hard thing, and you talking about that hard thing has probably eased somebody's journey somewhere who could be going through a hard thing. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kind of the poets.
On the side, there can be a poet.
Well, thank you for being one of our largest supporters.
Yes. That's true.
Friends are
Yes.
And thank you. I mean, let me just say, like, I mean, people listening who've heard me mention, like, oh, you guys, like, right? Like, I mean, you guys were my, you know, you're my family, right? And you were there every step of the way, like every day, every part of the journey. And I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for being like amazing support and for being such great human beings and great friends. Like, I really love you both, and I'm thankful to have you in my life.
Thank you.
I'm not crying at the end of the
Bring that tissue. Yeah. Cry. Yes. We did it.
Please go get tested. Go get checked.
Please
check your boobs. Yeah.
Maybe you can post one of like the videos for like checking your boobs on here. You can attach one. Yes. Because really it takes you know.
Actually, we'll post that on our social channels. In the last few days of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But we'll post on our YouTube channel and socials, like just how to just do a check.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Black.
And the logo. Oh, wow. You already have a preset.